The officer drew his gun, pressed it against Captain Amara Lewis's stomach, and pulled the trigger without so much as a blink. She spent 7 years defending America overseas. It took 7 seconds for America to kill her at home. The sun bears down on the cracked asphalt outside Franklin Veterans Clinic. Captain Amara Lewis exits the building, her uniform pressed to perfection, combat boots reflecting the harsh midday light. At her side walks 6-year-old Zuri, small fingers clutching both a worn teddy bear and her mother's steady hand. The child's eyes, wide and curious, follow a butterfly dancing across the parking lot, while her mother scans the area with the practiced vigilance of someone who's survived 3 combat tours. A police cruiser screeches to a halt 30 feet away. 2 officers emerge, one hanging back near the vehicle, the other approaching with calculated authority, hand already resting on his holster. "Ma'am, stop right there," he calls out, sunglasses masking his eyes but not the tension in his voice. "What's with the uniform?" Captain Lewis positions herself slightly in front of Zuri. "I'm active duty, Captain Amara Lewis, just finished an appointment inside." Her voice carries the measured cadence of command, clear, precise, unthreatening. The officer's posture stiffens. "That uniform looks off. Where'd you really get it?" "From the United States government, officer. My ID is in my—" "Don't move your hands," he cuts her off, drawing his weapon. "Lots of people play dress-up these days." Onlookers freeze. A woman behind a parked SUV raises her phone, recording. "She's at a VA clinic," someone calls out. "What are you doing?" "1 minute to die, 1 lifetime to matter." Captain Lewis's training takes over. She moves with deliberate slowness, angling her body to shield Zuri completely. "Sir, my daughter is present. I'm complying fully. There's no need for weapons." "Kneel down, now." "I cannot kneel while holding my child." The confrontation escalates in heartbeats. Words sharpen. Tensions rise. The officer's finger twitches against the trigger. The shot cracks the air open. Blood blossoms across Captain Lewis's uniform, saturating the American flag stitched to her sleeve. Her body jerks backward, but her discipline holds. She doesn't fall immediately. Instead, she completes one final protective maneuver, turning to place her body between the bullet's path and her daughter. Text overlay. Black veterans are 2.5x more likely to be stopped by police while in uniform. Through Zuri's eyes, the world transforms into slow motion. Her mother's face, always strong, always certain, flickers with something unfamiliar. Not fear. Recognition. As if this moment had always been waiting, Captain Lewis's knees finally buckle. Her hand, slick with blood, makes one final reach toward her daughter before she collapses. Zuri doesn't scream. The daughter of a military intelligence officer knows when silence is safe. She kneels beside her mother's body, small fingers touching the blood-soaked fabric of the uniform, unable to comprehend how something so official, so respected, couldn't protect her mother. The officer speaks into his radio, voice mechanical, target neutralized, female subject down. But that transmission reached more than just dispatch. It reached Dagger Command. Has America's symbol of freedom become selective in who it protects? Drop your thoughts below. And stay with me, because what happened in the next 60 seconds changed military-police relations forever. 3 screens illuminate simultaneously inside Fort Liberty's Command Operations Center. Alert notifications cascade down each monitor. Priority Alpha. Dagger Operative Engagement Classification. Unauthorized. Location. Civilian jurisdiction status. Critical. Colonel Marcus Reed stands motionless at the center of the room, his expression hardening as the data flows in. Military personnel move with practiced efficiency around him, each step choreographed through years of training for moments precisely like this one. Alpha Alert. Unauthorized engagement with Dagger Operative. Full procedural override authorized, Colonel Reed states, his voice cutting through the controlled chaos. Activate Contingency Protocol 1949. Satellite feeds reroute. Communication channels switch to classified frequencies. On screen, a blinking dot marks Captain Lewis's position, while a second tracking system activates, highlighting her daughter's location. "Sir, civilian authorities have no idea who they just shot," Lieutenant Chen reports, fingers flying across his keyboard. "They'll learn," Reed responds, nodding to a team already gearing up. Deploy immediate extraction team for the minor. Medical status on Captain Lewis? Critical, sir. Survival probability is minimal. Left screen, police officers at the scene, radios suddenly emitting only static, confusion spreading across their faces. Right screen, military personnel in the command center, mobilizing with precise, coordinated movements. In a reinforced corner of the operations room, a digital clock resets to 00, beginning to count the minutes since the shooting. Beneath it, a personnel file appears with Captain Lewis's service record. The designation, Dagger 72, pulses in red at the top of the file. Retired General Harris stands in the doorway, summoned from a meeting 3 floors below. In 40 years of service, I've never seen this protocol activated on domestic soil, he murmurs to his aide. Brief text overlay. Under U.S. Code Title 10, Section 394, military command assumes priority jurisdiction when cleared intelligence operatives face hostile action, even from domestic authorities. Across town, an unmarked black SUV pulls up to the chaotic scene outside the VA clinic. Sergeant Damian Bennett steps out, wearing no identifiable uniform beyond a small American flag pin. His movements are deliberate, focused entirely on the small girl kneeling beside her fallen mother. He approaches Zuri with measured steps, kneeling to her eye level. "Your mother sent me," he says softly, though they both know it isn't true. "I'm going to keep you safe now." Meanwhile, paramedic James Terry, an Army Reserve medic with 3 Afghanistan tours behind him, leans over Captain Lewis's body. His hands move professionally, but his eyes widen when he notices the blood-soaked patch on her shoulder. Carefully shifting her collar, he confirms what the designation means. "Jesus Christ," he whispers, looking up at the officer who fired the shot. "You just shot Dagger 72, the woman who extracted 37 hostages during Operation Midnight Horizon." The officer steps back. "What are you talking about? The uniform you just disrespected has more authority than your entire department." As Zuri clutches her mother's bloodied sleeve, a different kind of American force mobilizes. The kind with satellites, override codes, and a very long memory. The cell phone video uploads at 2:47 p.m. By 3:15, it reached 500,000 views. By dinner, 8 million. The counter in the corner of news broadcasts ticks upward with relentless momentum as America watches a black woman in uniform fall to the ground, blood soaking into her military insignia. No edits, no commentary needed. Raw footage that speaks its own truth. A digital forensics expert enhances the video frame by frame. The timestamp reads 2:55 p.m. when the enhancement completes, revealing what was previously unclear. Captain Lewis's medals and rank insignia clearly visible to the officers before the first gun was drawn. Distinguished Service Cross, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, all in plain sight. The hashtags form like gathering storm clouds. Shot in uniform, dagger down, say her rank. In a year where 14 other uniformed black Americans were confronted by police, Captain Lewis became the statistic no one was counting, reads the caption beneath a viral post from a military family support group. The post accumulates 200,000 shares in an hour. In an Atlanta high school classroom, Miss Hernandez stops her American history lesson mid-sentence. She turns the screen toward 30 stunned teenagers. "This isn't politics," she tells them, voice steady but eyes damp. "This is history happening in real time. This is America having a conversation with itself about who deserves protection and who does not." The students sit in rare, complete silence. One boy in the back, whose mother serves in the Navy, quietly slips out of the room. Left screen, police union statement defending officers, citing split-second decisions and unfortunate tragedy. Military forums exploding with outrage. Service members posting photos of themselves in uniform with the caption, "Am I next?" Text overlay. 42% of active duty military personnel are people of color. Department of Defense. Army Staff Sergeant Miguel Ortiz posts a video of himself removing medals from his dress uniform, placing them in an envelope addressed to his congressman. "Until the uniform protects us all, these medals mean nothing," he states. The video inspires thousands of similar acts across military bases worldwide. Even Jackson Reynolds, conservative radio host, known for his unwavering support of law enforcement, breaks rank on his national broadcast. "I've spent 10 years telling you to back the blue. Today, I'm telling you to honor the uniform. This isn't about sides. This is about sacred promises broken." When we ask our military to die for a flag, then kill them for wearing one, we've lost our way as a nation. The blood-stained flag patch from Captain Lewis's uniform becomes the profile picture of millions online. Artists render it in digital paintings. Veterans mail actual uniform patches to police departments nationwide. Uniform recognized overseas, invisible at home. The phrase appears as text over footage of Captain Lewis's body, spreading across platforms from TikTok to corporate LinkedIn pages. Military spouses debate duty versus self-preservation in forum threads that stretch thousands of comments long. Active duty personnel question their oaths in private messages that somehow find their way to public feeds. A Marine Corps drill instructor films himself asking recruits, "Would you die for a country that might not recognize your right to live in it?" The video reaches 20 million views in 6 hours. What does it say about America when our most shared content shows our deepest contradictions? Comment below. And what happens when the military decides enough is enough? Keep watching, because the Pentagon's 3-word response shook the foundation of police immunity. The Department of Defense rarely breaks silence. When it does, nations listen. At precisely 9 a.m., screens across America display 3 stark, white sentences against a black background. "We do not make recommendations. The truth has already done that." No spokesperson, no press conference, no opportunity for questions. Just 15 words that hang in the digital air like a declaration of independence from the usual institutional solidarity. In the Pentagon's central briefing room, 6 generals stand side by side, facing a wall of cameras. For exactly 60 seconds, the time between Captain Lewis's shooting and the military alert system activation. They maintain complete silence. Not one reporter dares to interrupt. The only sound, a clock ticking off each second with mechanical precision. Not since the Vietnam era has the military publicly questioned its relationship with domestic law enforcement, whispers a CNN analyst as the silence finally breaks. On screens across military installations, orders disseminate with cold efficiency. Joint Directive 2024-117. All police military training exercises suspended indefinitely. 10-year retrospective review. All police encounters with military personnel. Implementation of Lewis protocols. Immediate. Text overlay. $440 million in joint training programs suspended overnight. Department of Justice Financial Impact Assessment. Police departments nationwide scramble to respond. Emergency meetings convene in the mayor's offices. Phone calls to Pentagon contacts go unanswered. For the first time in generations, 2 arms of American authority stand divided by a blood-stained uniform. In the Pentagon's Hall of Honor, maintenance staff install a glass case. Inside, a single flag patch, still bearing dark stains. The brass plaque beneath reads simply, "Uniform preserved, intact, in service, betrayed." By afternoon, the line to view it stretches through 3 corridors. Left screen, police departments issuing emergency protocol updates, officers looking uncertain. Military bases implementing new defensive measures, soldiers moving with purpose. At West Point, Commander Diana Richardson addresses the assembled cadets with steel in her voice. "Today we learn the difference between wearing authority and deserving it. Captain Lewis earned her uniform. The man who killed her merely put his on." Newly declassified files appear on military networks. Operation Midnight Horizon. 37 American hostages were extracted from a classified location. Captain Amara Lewis, call sign Dagger 72, sustaining multiple injuries while ensuring 0 civilian casualties. Presidential commendation awarded, but kept classified due to ongoing intelligence concerns. The files include a photo, Captain Lewis carrying a wounded child across an airfield under fire. The image spreads across military channels like wildfire. Throughout the day, triangular folded flags appear on desks across government offices. Nobody claims responsibility for placing them there. Nobody removes them. Text overlay. Since 2001, Black Americans account for 17% of military casualties, while defending a system that failed to defend Captain Lewis. At Arlington National Cemetery, an impromptu gathering forms. Military personnel in civilian clothes stand in formation, facing the section where Captain Lewis would have been buried had she fallen overseas rather than in a VA parking lot. They maintain perfect lines despite having no commander present. A classified military intelligence file marked Captain Amara Lewis, Complete Service Record, appears on the president's desk with no indication how it arrived there. Inside, detailed accounts of 3 operations that prevented mass civilian casualties on American soil. Operations the public never knew about. Operations that saved thousands. The file contains one handwritten note. She died protecting America from threats, both foreign and domestic. As evening approaches, cable news analysts debate constitutional questions about military authority versus police jurisdiction. Legal scholars cite obscure precedents. Politicians issue careful statements, balancing respect for both institutions. But while institutions wrestle with policy, a child prepares to speak a truth no adult has the courage to face. Congressional hearings rarely fall silent. They run on words, arguments, objections, clarifications, and carefully crafted statements. But today, the Rayburn House office building's main chamber stands hushed in anticipation. A solitary chair faces the half-circle of lawmakers. Behind it, cameras from every major network focus on the empty seat. The committee chairman adjusts his microphone. The committee calls Zuri Lewis. Side doors open. A small figure enters, guided by a military aide who steps back once she reaches the chair. At 10 years old, Zuri Lewis appears almost swallowed by the cavernous room. Her braided hair features red, white, and blue ribbons. Her dress is navy blue, pressed and proper. In her hands, a blood-stained badge, her mother's final possession. 1 minute to die, 1 lifetime to matter. The text appears briefly on screens nationwide as cameras zoom in on her face. Composed, determined, a mirror image of her mother's military portrait. "Please state your name for the record," the chairman prompts gently. "My name is Zuri Amara Lewis." Her voice carries surprisingly well for someone so young. Daughter of Captain Amara Lewis, United States Army Intelligence, call sign Dagger 72. She places the badge on the table before her. The metal catches light, sending prisms across the wood surface. "My mother never called it a mistake when she saved lives." Zuri begins, her cadence measured and precise. "She called it duty. I heard adults say what happened was an error, a tragic miscalculation." She pauses, looking directly at the committee members. "But a mistake is mixing salt for sugar. It never costs a life." The chamber remains absolutely still. No papers shuffling, no whispered consultations. Even the usual clicking of cameras falls away. What cost my mother was a decision. A decision by those who never paused to see the person behind the uniform. A conservative congressman on the right side of the dais slowly removes his American flag pin, placing it face down on the table before him. The gesture spreads. 3 more committee members following suit without comment. Text overlay. 214 black veterans confronted by police while in uniform last year. Military Times analysis. "My mother is not here to forgive," Zuri continues, her voice unwavering. "So why should I ask you? If you cannot recognize the duty behind this badge, how can you protect those who wear it?" She lifts the badge once more, holding it toward the lights. Blood has dried in its crevices, around the numbers that identified her mother's precinct and rank. Throughout the chamber, military veterans in the audience rise to their feet, not in protest, not in support, in silent salute. The chairman, a former Navy commander, breaks protocol to stand himself. "Ms. Lewis, this committee extends its deepest." "I don't want your condolences," Zuri interrupts. "I want your promise that no other child will watch their parents die for wearing a uniform America asked them to wear." Social media platforms struggle under the weight of simultaneous shares. News broadcasts split screens between Zuri's testimony and public reactions pouring in across the country. Zuri at the microphone, composed and focused. Streets filling with people watching on public screens, many in uniform. As she steps away from the microphone, Zuri leaves the badge on the table. It remains there untouched as members file out after adjournment. None will claim the courage to move it. A child spoke truth that adults couldn't face. What truths are we avoiding in our own lives? Share your thoughts below. And what happens when a system can no longer deny its contradictions? The answer came faster than anyone expected. The City Hall press room buzzes with anticipation. Reporters check equipment, officials whisper behind cupped hands. All eyes fix on the empty podium bearing the Metro Police Department seal. Police Chief Robert Daniels steps into view, 26 years of service evident in his bearing. His dress uniform gleams under the lights, medals from his own military service prominently displayed. Without greeting the press, he begins. For 30 years, I've worn uniforms of service. First for the Marines, then for this department. I believe both stood for the same principles. The room grows still. Chief Daniels reaches for his badge. You can't ask soldiers to bleed for a symbol you treat as disposable. I will not preside over that hypocrisy. The badge falls from his fingers. In the harsh light of camera flashes, it seems to hover momentarily before striking the podium, with a sound that echoes through dead silent speakers nationwide. Effective immediately, I resign my position. Within hours, similar scenes play out across the country. The assistant director of the FBI steps down. 3 police commissioners in major cities announce their departures. A SWAT commander in Chicago removes his tactical gear on camera, saying simply, "I choose the oath I took first." Officer Michael Washington, an 8-year police veteran, speaks to reporters outside his precinct. His expression betrays the conflict within. "I served 2 tours in Iraq before joining the force," he explains, fingers tracing his badge. "This moment forced me to choose which oath matters more. When I see Captain Lewis, I see my fellow soldiers. When I see that officer's actions, I see a system I can no longer defend." On Capitol Hill, Senator Kamala Jeffries faces the mayor of a major metropolitan area across a committee table. Her voice carries decades of controlled fury. "This isn't about politics," she states, sliding photographs of Captain Lewis toward him. "It's about whether we mean what we say when we thank them for their service. Your department has had 7 incidents involving black veterans in uniform in the past year alone." The mayor begins a rehearsed response about training improvements. "Don't," Senator Jeffries interrupts. "Your policies killed a woman who saved more American lives than everyone in this room combined." The hearing joins dozens of similar confrontations unfolding in chambers across the country, echoing incidents in Phoenix, Miami, and Detroit, where officers confronted uniformed military personnel with deadly escalation that somehow never reached national attention. Until now. Text Ole. Police departments with veteran sensitivity training show 64% fewer use-of-force incidents. Within the Pentagon, a classified designation appears in internal communications, Event 0. Military personnel recognize the significance immediately. It marks the point from which all future actions will be measured, a reset of institutional memory. The official directive reads, "Effective immediately, all uniformed personnel retain the right to defensive protocols if confronted by civilian authorities demonstrating clear escalation bias. Chain of command authorization waived under Lewis exception provisions." Translation? The military will no longer ask its members to die without defending themselves, even against those with badges. An Air Force technical sergeant posts a personal account that reaches millions. "We were taught to respect police as fellow guardians. Now we're taught to view them as potential threats. This breaks my heart, but my fallen sister's blood demands this change." Gregory Martinez, former president of the National Police Union, known for defending officers in controversial shootings, appears on national television with a statement that stuns his former colleagues. "Some lines can't be crossed, even in the name of brotherhood," he says. "When you shoot a soldier wearing our nation's uniform, you've crossed every line that separates order from chaos." The blood-stained flag patch from Captain Lewis's uniform appears everywhere, projected onto government buildings at night, printed on T-shirts worn by celebrities, displayed in silent vigils at police stations nationwide. The system wasn't just changing, it was remembering. And remembrance required something more powerful than policy. Systems don't change until people within them refuse to participate in injustice. Have you ever stood against a broken system? Share your experience below. And stay with me, because 1 year later, America witnessed something unprecedented. Calendar pages fall away, seasons change, headlines evolve. 1 year passes. Morning light bathes the parade grounds of the newly established United States Military Preparatory Academy. Rows of cadets stand at attention, their uniforms catching the sun. The formation creates perfect lines against the green field, each young person representing a different American story. Among them stands 16-year-old Zuri Lewis, Her cadet uniform fits her slender frame with precise measurements. On her collar, a small pin that once belonged to her mother, the only piece of Captain Lewis's uniform not stained with blood that day outside the VA clinic. From 1 minute of injustice to a lifetime of purpose. The text appears on screens nationwide as cameras capture this moment. Families watch from designated viewing areas. Military officials observe with solemn attention. This is more than a ceremony, it's a declaration. Zuri standing at podium, poised and focused. Montage showing new training protocols, police reform legislation, military protection directives implemented in the year since. Zuri approaches the microphone, her steps measured and confident. The crowd falls silent. "My name is Zuri Lewis," she begins, her voice carrying across the field. "My mother wore her uniform as a promise that the nation would protect its own. Today I wear mine as a reminder that promises must be kept." Her gaze sweeps across the audience, pausing briefly on familiar military faces who supported her through the past year. "It took 1 minute for a man with a badge to decide bias outweighed honor," she continues. "That same minute has ignited changes we cannot ignore. That same minute revealed how quickly we forget what uniforms truly represent, not authority, but service." Behind her, the senior class of cadets, more diverse than any in the Academy's history, stand motionless. Each wears a subtle addition to their uniform, a small 72 pin honoring Dagger 72. "My mother saved lives behind enemy lines," Zuri states. "She died behind friendship lines. The difference matters." Colonel James Richardson, Academy Commandant, watches with visible emotion. 6 months earlier, he implemented the Lewis curriculum, mandatory training on implicit bias, de-escalation, and the complex history of authority in America. Text overlay. Applications to military service from minority communities increased 34% following the Lewis Protocols, Defense Department recruitment analysis. Among the distinguished guests sits an unexpected figure. Director Angela Washington of the National Police Academy. Her presence marks a turning point in the fractured relationship between institutions. "Captain Lewis's death forced us to confront our deepest failings," Director Washington acknowledged in her morning address. "Her sacrifice now shapes how we train every officer in this country." She referred to the now mandatory situational authority recognition training implemented in 83% of police academies nationwide, teaching officers to recognize military personnel not as threats but as colleagues in national security. Zuri continues, her words gaining strength. "Today we graduate the first class under the Lewis Protocols. Today we recognize that accountability isn't punishment, it's progress." Complete silence falls across the field. For 5 seconds, cameras pan across faces in formation. Black, white, Latino, Asian, Indigenous, all standing united in purpose. President Williams signs the Amara Lewis Accountability Act into law 3 hours after the ceremony concludes. The legislation creates new federal standards for police interactions with military personnel and establishes the first-ever joint oversight committee with equal representation from both institutions. The signing ceremony features Zuri handing the president the pen that will make the act official. "In tragedy, we search for meaning," Zuri tells reporters afterward. "In injustice, we demand change, but in remembrance, we find purpose." The cameras capture her expression, no longer the traumatized child from that parking lot, but a young woman with clear direction. Her mother's story didn't end with a gunshot. It began a national reckoning. Across military bases worldwide, the anniversary is marked with moment of silence observances. In police academies, Captain Lewis's final minutes become a case study in recognition, failure, and consequence. In government offices, the date triggers mandatory review of cross-institutional protocols. Transforming tragedy into purpose may be our highest calling. Has a personal loss ever motivated you to create positive change? Share your story. And remember, this narrative continues beyond this video. Inside training facilities across America, a new curriculum takes shape. Military academies incorporate the incident into standard training modules. Police academies adjust threat assessment protocols. Both institutions study the same case from opposite perspectives, seeking understanding where there once was division. The Amara Lewis Protocol appears in official documentation, structured guidelines for the protection of uniformed personnel across jurisdictions. The changes aren't superficial policy adjustments, but fundamental shifts in institutional thinking. When authority confronts authority, we now ask, who serves the greater purpose? Explains Major Gregory Thompson, head of the Joint Training Initiative. This question alone has prevented dozens of potential escalations. Reports of harassment of uniformed personnel dropped 87% within 2 years. Congressional Oversight Committee on Military-Police Relations. At the Pentagon, the Memorial Glass case has become a pilgrimage site. Time-lapse security footage shows a constant stream of visitors. Military personnel, police officers, civilians, each pausing before the blood-stained patch. Many leave tokens, challenge coins, patches from their own uniforms, handwritten notes. The collection grows daily, requiring weekly cataloging by dedicated staff. A Japanese defense attaché observes the memorial during an official visit. In my country, we have a concept called kintsukuroi, repairing broken pottery with gold, he tells his American counterpart. The repair becomes part of the object's history, making it more beautiful for having been broken. Your country is attempting kintsukuroi with its institutions. Cadet Zuri Lewis, now in her 2nd year at the Preparatory Academy, walks the corridors with purpose. Instructors note her exceptional performance in crisis management and ethical leadership courses. Her application for the Intelligence Division already bears preliminary approval signatures, following her mother's path while creating her own. She doesn't just carry her mother's memory, her tactical instructor notes. She carries her mission forward. The blood-stained flag patch that became a symbol of institutional failure transforms in public consciousness. Artists create works showing the stained patch gradually cleaning itself, the blood becoming red stripes on a new flag. The evolution represents not erasure of the past, but growth from acknowledgement. A joint military police training session in Chicago demonstrates the new protocols in action. Officers learn to identify military insignia and understand chain of command implications. Military personnel practice de-escalation techniques specific to law enforcement encounters. The uniform, once shot down by prejudice, now stands as a beacon of accountability, states the training manual's introduction. The phrase becomes shorthand for the entire movement toward institutional reform. In community centers nationwide, civilians participate in workshops about authority recognition, learning the difference between various uniforms and the proper responses to each. Children learn these distinctions, alongside basic safety protocols. My mother would recognize this country now, Zuri tells a journalist documenting the 2-year anniversary, not because it's perfect, but because it's finally honest about its imperfections. The question resonates across political divides. Does true patriotism mean protecting symbols or protecting the people those symbols represent? This case has been incorporated into training at 94% of police academies nationwide, National Police Training Standards Board. The story comes full circle at Arlington National Cemetery, where a special memorial stands for service members who died on American soil. Captain Amara Lewis's name heads the list. The inscription reads, "Those who served twice, abroad with courage, at home with sacrifice." In that enduring silence, the country finds a quiet, unwavering promise. Honor will always rise from the darkest wounds. This story reminds us that sometimes justice arrives in unexpected ways. Subscribe to Black Narratives for more powerful stories of resilience and change. What other untold stories deserve to be brought into the light? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, 1 minute can change everything.